Question number 2, Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he have confidence in the Minister of Foreign Affairs? If so, why?
Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, even the T-boy gets his day in the sun. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, yes, because he is a competent and hard-working minister.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary
question, Honourable Phil Goff.
If the Minister is competent and hard-working, as the Prime Minister alleges, why did he take no steps between the 12th of May and the 30th of June to secure the waiver for diplomatic immunity that the Malaysians had on offer, given the seriousness of the offence and given that high-level intervention was needed?
Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I reject the premise at the last end of the member state, but it was reasonable for Mr McCulley to believe an appropriate process was underway and that he would be informed appropriately by the Ministry if that process was not proceeding satisfactorily.
Supplementary question,
Supplementary
Mr. Speaker.
question, Honourable Phil Goff.
Why was the incident apparently of so little importance to Mr McCulley that he never even raised it with his Secretary of Foreign Affairs, who was never informed of it?
Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, Mr McCulley did have the matter drawn to his attention, as you know, and he was of the belief, and I think an entirely fair belief, that an appropriate process was being followed, as is followed in all these situations, and he would have been notified if there was an issue. And that, of course, is the subject of an investigation that has been commenced by the Chief Executive of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade to determine why it wasn't that Mr McCulley, or in fact the Prime Minister, was informed earlier than they were.
Supplementary question,
Supplementary
Mr. Speaker.
question, Honourable Phil Goff.
Is Mr McCulley just a rubber stamp, or is he paid $250,000 a year to exercise leadership and oversight over his ministry, and why didn't he do it?
Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I think that Mr McCulley looks a lot less like a rubber stamp than the member opposite.
Oh, I don't think so. Order.
That from the man that accepted $1 million off the exclusive brethren.
Question,
Supplementary question. Mr. Speaker, why has the Prime Minister not asked for and accepted the resignation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs for being negligent and failing to do what any other Minister of Foreign Affairs would have done, which is to take personal responsibility to ensure that the rights of that victim was upheld and the waiver was asked for?
Order. Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I think the member is suggesting an approach that in actual fact is not appropriate in the circumstances. The situation is simply this, that the Chief Executive of MFAT is undertaking an independent review into the circumstances of this situation, the protocol processes to manage these types of situations and whether they are fit for purpose, and the Ministry's communications, and make recommendations for change. Out of that, any particular decisions that need to be made in terms of repercussions will be made.
Order. Question number 3, Maggie Barry. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for the Environment. What recent announcements has she made